I would like to start with a number. This one. Not anything dramatic, just a number. It could be your grade, your predicted, your rank, or your age. Some of you already recognize it, but today it's not a joke, because these numbers follow us everywhere. They decide how smart we feel, how successful we think we are, and sometimes even how worthy we believe we are. And when you're young, you're told numbers are objective, fair, neutral. But emotionally, they carry so much weight. Researchers have actually asked students how they felt about their academic standing compared to others. And in one study conducted by researcher Yi Liu, it was found that about 67% of students said they felt like they were academically behind their peers, and that comparison made them feel anxious or inadequate. What stood out to me was that the study wasn't even measuring grades. It was measuring how the students felt about themselves in comparison to others. Not because they were failing, but because they were constantly measuring themselves against everyone else. And that pressure shows up early. Early enough that by 16, some of us already feel behind, including myself. And that feeling is strange because, if you think about it logically, 16 is young. We're still figuring out who we are, what we enjoy, what we're even good at. But emotionally, it doesn't feel young at all. It feels like the moment where everyone else had started running and you're still tying your shoes. Then somewhere along the way, school stopped being school. In certain cases, it became a competition, which just kind of happens. You start noticing who gets praised more, whose names come up more often, who seems to be always doing something impressive. And slowly, without realizing it, you start measuring yourself against them. And once that happens, we start collecting things. Not memories, bullet points. Not hobbies, leadership roles. Not interests, positions. We stop asking what we actually enjoy and start asking what looks good. You join clubs you may not be fully familiar with. You sign up for activities you swear you're passionate about, then forget about 2 weeks later. Not because you're lazy, but because the passion was never real to begin with. You stack everything into a list and think, okay, this will finally be enough. And for a moment, it feels comforting, like you're doing what you're supposed to do, like you're keeping up. Spoiler alert, it never is. Because there's always someone doing more, someone who started earlier, someone who seems to be better at the same thing you're doing. Someone else wins the competition you may be passionate about. It's easy to underestimate a role until you see it go to someone else, right? And suddenly, you care. And everything you've done still feels like it's not enough. Being 16 right now feels like there's a pressure to be exceptional in multiple aspects. Well, based on what I observed and felt. To already have a mission, a purpose, a brand. To be making an impact when most days we're just trying to survive math homework, or deadlines, or the feeling that we're constantly falling behind some invisible standard. And we don't talk about how exhausting that is. Not just physically, but mentally. How it follows you home. How it creeps into your thoughts at night when you're supposed to be resting. How easy it is to get addicted to doing things you might not fully enjoy. Not because they truly matter to you, but because they look impressive and beneficial in some aspect. And when everyone around you is chasing something, it's hard to stop and ask whether you even want it. So you keep going, even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when you feel disconnected from your own life. At some point, we get so focused on making our lives look impressive from the outside that we forget to actually live them from the inside. But did anyone actually ever tell you, you need to change the world at 16? Exactly. No one ever said that. But we still absorbed it. From comparison, from expectations, from fear of falling behind. And for a while, I played along. I kept adding things, then adding more things, then adding one more thing just in case. Just in case this was the thing that finally made me feel secure. Just in case this was the thing that proved I was doing enough. until I joined something that changed my perspective. I helped teach refugees for a few sessions. Many of them had come from Afghanistan, forced to leave their homes when staying was no longer safe. They have been here for years, learning English as a vital step towards starting a new life elsewhere. For them, language learning is more than just an academic skill. It is a pathway to independence, communication, and the ability to rebuild their future after displacement. It offered no big title, no leadership role, and no certificate. And honestly, that almost stopped me from going. Because in my head, I kept thinking, does this even count? How impactful will this be? I remember almost Googling, does this count as an extracurricular? And when I think about that now, it makes me laugh a little. But back then, it felt like a serious question. A question I noticed a lot of people were also searching the answer for. Because that's how trained we are to think. I didn't end up typing it, but the fact that the thought even crossed my mind was kind of alarming. Because I wasn't asking whether it was useful or whether it mattered. I was asking whether it was convertible, whether I could turn this into a line on a form. And that realization made me uncomfortable because it meant I had started seeing experiences not as experiences, but as transactions. What do I give? What do I get back? But then something unexpected happened. Teaching the refugees gave me a sense of fulfillment and purpose. Not because it would look good on an application, but because I saw the happiness and gratefulness from the eyes and words of the refugees. I watched them celebrate each new word they learned, share their stories, and slowly gain confidence. Their curiosity and determination made every session meaningful. For the first time in a long time, I felt I was doing something that truly mattered, helping someone take even a small step towards a new life. I went home feeling full instead of feeling drained. I felt content, and that feeling stayed with me. Because I had realized how rare it had become to do something without asking what it would turn into later. And the best part? Seeing the impact on them. Each session, they gained more confidence in speaking English, and with every new word they learned, a door opened for them to take new steps toward independence. They shared their stories, laughed at mistakes, celebrated small victories, and grew more hopeful about their future. In those moments, I wasn't the only one learning or gaining. They were building skills and courage that could help them start new lives elsewhere. That's when I realized we're not supposed to change the world at 16, because we're not really meant to do that. We're supposed to feel it and experience the world and meet new people, to try things, to get confused, to mess up, to start again, to figure out who we are before who we want to be human before we want to try to be extraordinary. Maybe the point isn't about building the perfect portfolio. Maybe the point is building a life you actually recognize and enjoy. One that doesn't feel like it belongs to a checklist. So if you're 16, or remember what it was like to be there, know that it's never too late. Know that it's enough. Because being enough isn't about doing what's more, it's about doing what's real and what gives you contentment and inspiration. And if that ends up changing the world someday, that's amazing. But if it doesn't, it is totally okay. What matters is you live your life with truthfulness, fulfillment, and contentment. Thank you.